So the summer update is here and a lot has changed. We hit a record high player count, got a ton of new maps, new hats, this gate on steel, and even a new game mode. That's right, Saxton Hale has officially arrived, and this time not to help us fight against the Yetis, but to fight the very mercs themselves. And suddenly, it appears that Heavy is no longer amongst just baby men. So, how exactly should the Heavy go about fighting this new monster among men? Well, that's exactly what this guide will be all about. The best ways that you, the Heavy, can manhandle the beast himself, Saxton Hale. So just to make things a little easier, let's just go ahead and cover every weapon I would not recommend to help this guide flow a little smoother. First off, I would not recommend the Huo Long Heater, as it's already incredibly easy to lose ammo in Saxton Hale mode, and you don't generally want to be this close to Saxton Hale most of the time anyway. Second, and I know some people are going to hate this, I would go ahead and scrap any use of shotguns, as the damage they deal just aren't going to be worth the risk. And while we're on the topic of secondaries, I would go ahead and say the Buffalo Stake probably isn't going to help you much here either. Lastly, I would recommend not to use the Warrior's Spirit, as the benefits of 50 health plus a little extra damage just aren't going to be worth the damage vulnerability facing a class that can already kill you in just 2 hits. But with that being said, all else is fair game in my opinion. So to kick things off, let's start with Heavy's miniguns. Now the stock minigun and the Tomislav are going to be used in similar fashions to each other. Even though they both have different strengths, they both are going to deal similar damage in this case, considering all of Heavy's primary damage in Saxton Hale mode is nerfed down by 40%. And if you're smart, you'll be dealing damage from a distance for the most part, as getting too close to Saxton too often will often lead to your immediate death. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place to get close. When you've got teammates close by, or when your medic has an Uber, you can risk getting in close for a little bit and dealing some serious damage. But for the most part, try to keep some distance, keep consistent damage on Saxton, and have a nearby edge or balcony to jump down just in case you're being chased. Secondly, let's talk about the Brass Beast. If you're going to use the Brass Beast, try to keep even more of a distance. Now, sure, the damage output could be detrimental if Saxton were to stand right beside you and just never notice his health draining, but the problem is that once Saxton does notice you, you're basically a sitting duck. So, from what I've read, most veteran players suggest to spray Saxton from a distance, and then once he finally decides you're too much of a problem, just stand there and commit to dealing as much damage as possible until he comes and kills you, and just die an honorable death. Otherwise, have a medic nearby, and hopefully they can pull their Uber on you before it's too late. And lastly, just like with any game of casual, the Natasha can be a very annoying problem for anyone faced against it, and Saxton's no different. Now, honestly at first, I couldn't really even tell if the slowdown effect of the Natasha was working, and that's because a stat change actually exists in Saxton Hale mode that states the Natasha has an 85% reduced chance of triggering its slowdown on hit ability. So just by yourself, the Natasha may not quite give you what you were hoping for. However, I did notice that if you were to say increase the number of Natasha heavies on your team by say, I don't know, 5 or 12 players, the percentage of slowdown certainly increases, in which case you can give Saxton one really hellacious time trying to track down each mercenary. So if you do want to go this approach and make it effective, maybe use your team chat and convince some other people to go Natasha heavy with you. Now, onto your lunchbox items. I honestly don't think there's too much difference here between using your sandwich or the second banana. I mean, sure, medics would still prefer you throw them a sandwich if they were to be pocketing you, but for the most part, medics tend to be a bit all over the place in Saxton Hale mode, so either one will likely work well. Now, the DeLocas bar, however, may be a bit riskier than the other two choices, but I believe could still be pulled off decent enough if used in tandem with the Gru glitch, which helps you regain your health at a much quicker rate. Now, if you don't know how this glitch works, I'd really encourage you to watch my video explain this glitch after this video, because you'll want to know how to perform it before you just go and try it in front of a raging hail. So I'll put that link below in the description. And now onto the funnest part of the discussion, melee items. Almost every melee item in Heavy's backpack come with some extremely good perks for Saxton Hale mode. Let's start with the Fist of Steel. Now, you'd think that the Fist of Steel would be the worst melee you could use against Saxton, considering the one downside of the Fist of Steel are that the wearer takes 100% more damage from melee hits than they normally would. You know, melee, like the only type of damage Saxton deals. So, while you may think this is entirely counterintuitive, you have to remember that if the medic begins charging you while you're wearing these, you effectively help the medic charge their Uber twice as fast. And it doesn't matter if you keep the Fist of Steel out or not, once the medic has begun healing you, you can switch to any other weapon, and as long as the medic doesn't break his beam, the double speed effect will still work. So whether you want to team up with a pocket medic and pull off some quick Ubers, or help the team out by just helping the medic gain separate Ubers faster, the Fist of Steel can still come really in handy here. Just try not to get caught wearing them in front of Hale. For a second option, we've got the Killing Gloves of Boxing. And who could forget these things? 1 kill and you're guaranteed 5 seconds of crits with any weapon of your choosing. But what's cooler is, in Saxton Hale mode, you're actually always guaranteed crits with these bad boys, so you don't need to kill Saxton Hale first to unlock its effect with other weapons. Simply hit Saxton one time and you'll unlock crits with any weapon of your choice. Combine this with a quick swap out of the Tomislav, and you'll be landing some impressive damage in a short amount of time. Not to mention, the crits these gloves land will send Saxton flying, which can really save you or your teammates depending on how you time it, so use them wisely. Now, curiously enough, the Holiday Punch is both deceptively good and bad. You see, you might think there's practically no cons to having a melee that can make Saxton break down into a laughing fit at any point in time, but they're actually not as good as you'd think. You see, for starters, the Holiday Punch isn't guaranteed crits like many of your other melees are, so you still have to be really careful and pick your shots. And the other downside is, sure, you can make Saxton get stuck in his laughing animation and deal some serious damage, but if your team deals too much damage, Saxton will explode out of this animation, creating a giant blast that can hurt the whole team. So I wouldn't say not to use this melee, as it's still effective at stopping Hale and giving your team some time to recover, but I would suggest just using it carefully if you're dead set on making the big man laugh. And lastly, and by far, the best melee you can use in all of Saxton Hale, you might be able to guess it, that's right, the Eviction Notice. What? That's right, I can't believe I'm saying this either, but the bastardized, long-lost cousin of the Gru have finally been given their purpose with this summer update. Don't believe me? Just watch this.
In the game, no doubt we tough at how we got these cowards running home. And I'm like, what I got here frontin'? These crews get rock steady. We playing faster than bebop. Gillespie with the technique. Y'all like one-on-one shoot. Mikey take 100 plus some with the nunchucks. Leonardo cut him up. Donnie, he the smartest. He gon' teach whoever dumb enough to rap. Just asking. Satachi or the uppercut. What's up? Hey, hey, rolling on Broadway. Hey, hey, rolling on Broadway. Hey, hey, rolling on Broadway. Rolling on Broadway. I can do this all day.
So, as you can see, the quicker attack speed and the faster mobility the Eviction Notice grant you allows you to land multiple strikes on Saxton, oftentimes before he can even land one of his own. Not to mention, each hit is guaranteed to crit, sending Saxton flying into the air. So combine that with a medic and a small room, and you can basically just pin Saxton to a wall, tee off on him, and really just give him a piece of your mind. Now, I personally found the best spots for performing this to be in Saxton's spawn rooms, small hallways, and of course the infamous Five Nights at Freddy's room. But one extra thing about the Eviction Notice, the quicker attack speed actually allows you to climb up walls faster, which really comes in handy if you need to hide and create some space between you and the enemy. But anyways, overall, it just really is impressive how good the Eviction Notice is against Hale. I legit had Saxton players running away from me while making this footage. As for the Gru, they are still effective, but considering there's no real added benefit besides the guaranteed crits here, they're just not the optimal choice in my opinion. I mean, you can still use them to quickly run away, maybe get a few quick hits here and there, but the faster health drain just kills it for me. So, I mean, you can choose whichever you're more comfortable with, but in my opinion, between the two, the Eviction Notice just takes the cake here. But anyways, that about wraps up this guide. You can use any combination of these items to give yourself a better chance against Hale and be useful to your team. Just remember to stick close to a dispenser or ammo, partner with a medic if you're willing, and remember to stick in with your team. And with that being said, you're officially ready to go show Saxton who the real big man on campus truly is. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Happy hailing, and until next time, this was Big Joey. Later.
Ready to give a big pause! Help! I did what I could!
You are Big Joey, the worst TF tuber. You are Big Joey, log off your computer. I'm hanging out with my buddy DeCoubers.
Thank you, Big Joey. You suck on my pooper.